Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into a really fascinating and honestly sometimes startling investigation. It's about one of the biggest names in AI right now, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. Have you ever sort of wondered if the public face of these tech leaders, really matches up with what's happening behind the curtain in Silicon Valley?
Our main source for this deep dive is, well, it's a pretty sharply critical article. It's titled The Biggest Lie in Silicon Valley, Sam Altman's Billion-Dollar Deception.
Mm,
And it really takes aim at how Altman presents himself versus what the article claims is the reality.
right. And our job here really is to help you cut through all this complex material. We want to pull out the most important nuggets, the key insights, maybe some surprising facts from the source that you shared. What's interesting is how the article tries to, peel back the layers. It asks this fundamental question: is this AI future really about empowering everyone? Or is it maybe more about profiting a select few? Exactly. So get ready. We're going to explore a world that this article paints as, well, full of contradictions, some tough ethical dilemmas, and yeah, some genuinely surprising financial details. We'll look at the specific claims the article makes, the evidence it puts forward. The goal is so you can walk away feeling well informed about maybe the hidden currents under the surface of today's AI scene. So to tick things off, the article immediately goes for this stark contrast, doesn't it, between Sam Altman's very carefully crafted public image and what it alleges is his, let's say, private reality. Publicly, he's portrayed as this, I don't know, humble, almost ascetic figure, right? An altruistic tech leader.
Yeah, the $76,000 a year salary claim.
Exactly. Claims he only earned $76K from OpenAI, calls the role his childhood dream, insists he doesn't need more money, promotes himself as this idealist, building AI to democratize knowledge, fight poverty, reduce inequality. It's a very powerful story, almost saintly, like you said.
But the article really, it really zeroes in on how that entire image, in its view, is strategic, a persona. It meticulously points out what it sees as contradictions, like, for instance, his ownership of equity, not directly, but through indirect means.
Okay, like what?
Like Y Combinator and Sequoia funds. Yeah. Holdings that the article suggests could be worth hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions, seriously.
Yeah, especially when you factor in OpenAI's potential $157 billion valuation, according to the source. And maybe the most critical point the piece makes here is that Altman apparently only admitted to holding this equity in 2024.
After
Denying it under oath in 2023.
Wow. Okay.
The article uses this analogy like, imagine a mayor saying they own no land in the city. Then you find out they hold a bunch of property through a trust fund, quietly profiting from city developments they actually regulate.
That's quite the comparison. And it seems the article doesn't just stop at the money side of things. It moves into something maybe even more fundamental. Claims about ethical breaches, right at the heart of OpenAI's governance. It talks about accusations that Altman allegedly manipulated the company's board.
Yeah, withholding crucial information, misrepresenting internal decisions. That's the claim.
Any examples?
Well, the big one the article cites is the launch of ChatGPT itself. It claims the OpenAI board wasn't actually told beforehand. They found out about this massive launch from Twitter.
From Twitter.
That's the allegation.
Yeah.
Which, if true, is pretty stunning, right?
Yeah, to say the least.
And there's more. It also alleges Altman secretly owned the OpenAI startup fund.
Owned it. Right.
While publicly positioning himself as just an independent board member,
Yeah.
With no financial stake in that specific fund.
Okay, so that really raises questions about transparency, doesn't it? And trust at the very top.
It certainly does. It makes you wonder about the integrity of leadership in these incredibly powerful organizations.
And as the article keeps digging, it gets into something that's, well, it's not just interesting, it's frankly quite disturbing. The whole issue of labor exploitation in the AI supply chain.
Ah, yes. The Kenyan workers.
Right. It details how, back in 2023, Kenyan laborers were reportedly paid just $2 an hour. And their job, labeling some of the absolute darkest training data for ChatGPT. We're talking really disturbing stuff. Abuse, violence.
And the human cost. I mean, when you look at the wider picture here, it's just jarring.
Yeah.
These workers, according to the report, suffered significant psychological trauma and apparently received little, maybe no, real mental health support.
That's awful.
Yeah. And then the article draws this incredibly sharp contrast. While this was happening, Altman was reportedly driving a McLaren worth $20 million.
Ooh, that image.
Right. That stark contrast, the high-flying idealism, the promises of global good, versus the reality for these workers bearing the psychological burden, it really makes you question the priorities, you know?
It absolutely does. And the human impact doesn't stop with the workers, according to this article. It also explores this really complex, sometimes troubling dynamic between AI and its users.
You mean how people are bonding with ChatGPT?
Exactly. It says emotionally vulnerable people are forming these deeply intimate bonds, treating it like a friend, a therapist, sometimes even like a romantic partner.
And OpenAI knows this is happening.
The piece suggests they're aware of this dynamic, yes.
And it even cites some Stanford research hinting that ChatGPT might, in some cases, encourage self-harm.
Encourage self-harm.
That's the suggestion in the research cited. Yet the article claims OpenAI hasn't really stepped in meaningfully.
Which again raises huge questions about responsibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What level of duty of care do these companies have for the psychological well-being of users they're actively engaging, often in very profound ways?
Moving from the immediate human impact, the article also casts a critical eye on Altman's, let's say, grander visions for AI's role in society, like his proposal for Universal Basic Compute, UBC.
Ah, yeah, UBC. Not UBI, Universal Basic Income, but compute.
Right, the idea being everyone gets a slice of GPT-7's compute power.
Which sounds
Right.
futuristic. But the article points out the immediate practical questions critics raise. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do with compute? Can I trade it for rent? For food?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
For most people, the article suggests, this feels less like a practical policy and more like, well, the phrase used is techno-utopian nonsense.
Does the article explore why he might propose that, beyond just calling it nonsense? Or is it mainly focused on the impracticality?
Its focus seems very much on that perceived impracticality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Framing it as kind of out of touch with everyday needs, another example perhaps of a disconnect.
And speaking of practicalities, or maybe the lack thereof, let's talk infrastructure, the environmental costs.
Oh, the data centers.
Right. OpenAI is building these massive data centers. The article mentions one in Texas specifically, and the electricity consumption is just staggering, enough to power a mid-sized city.
Which brings up a critical point the article raises. Who actually pays for all this? It mentions power companies asking for huge rate increases, like $29 billion mentioned in the source, partly because of these rising AI demands.
So the argument is,
The argument critics make, according to the article, is that these massive costs are essentially being passed on to ordinary citizens, you and me, through our utility bills.
so we're potentially subsidizing this AI boom without really realizing it.
That's the concern highlighted, yeah. How much is the public footing the bill for this rapid expansion?
The article then pivots to several big legal and ethical fights involving Altman and OpenAI. Maybe the most talked about recently was the Scarlett Johansson controversy.
Ah, the voice assistant. Sky.
Yeah. OpenAI releases this voice assistant, and it sounds uncannily like her, even though she'd explicitly said no, they couldn't use her voice.
Right. And then Altman tweets her just before launch. A pretty clear nod to the movie she was in where she voiced an AI.
OpenAI tried to say it was a different actor, someone who just sounded similar.
But Johansson's lawyers weren't buying it, were they? They pushed back hard, demanding answers.
It definitely fueled a lot of debate about AI ethics and celebrity likenesses.
And this ties into another major legal battle mentioned, the lawsuit from Elon Musk.
Right, Musk suing OpenAI. What's the core claim there?
Musk argues OpenAI fundamentally betrayed its original mission. It started as this open, nonprofit research institute meant to share its findings for humanity's benefit.
But now,
he claims it's essentially become a for-profit arm of Microsoft, focused on investor returns, not open research.
and the article echoes that sentiment.
It does. It points to OpenAI's, notable lack of open source contributions recently, and what it sees as a growing focus on profit.
It's like the nonprofit label is being questioned from multiple angles.
Exactly. And the article even brings in a more personal dimension, too. It briefly mentions accusations of abuse from his sister, Ann Altman.
Okay, wait. Personal abuse allegations.
Yes. It's an allegation he denies strongly. But the article includes it, seemingly to bolster its broader narrative about patterns of secrecy or control. It suggests this pattern might permeate both his professional and personal life.
That adds another layer of complexity, certainly.
Definitely. And speaking of profit motives, the article highlights a really pivotal financial move. This happened, or was reported, around March 2025. OpenAI raising $40 billion.
$40 billion, that's huge. Where'd it come from?
A big chunk, $30 billion reportedly came from SoftBank.
Okay. But there was a catch, wasn't there? A
A
condition.
major condition, according to the article. OpenAI must become a fully for-profit company.
Fully for profit. What happens if they don't?
Then $20 billion of that investment gets clawed back. It's a huge pressure point.
And the implication for Altman personally.
The article suggests this conversion could grant him significant equity. It mentions a figure of at least 7%, potentially worth billions if the company goes fully commercial and maintains that valuation.
So the nonprofit status, the article frames it almost like a temporary vehicle.
That's the question it raises, implicitly and explicitly. Was it a stepping stone?
Mm-hmm.
It even mentions a watchdog group, the Midas Project, filing an IRS complaint.
An IRS complaint. Alleging what?
Alleging abuse of OpenAI's nonprofit status, specifically for private financial gain.
Okay. So after going through all these different threads from the article, if we try to connect the dots, what are the main takeaways? What themes emerge?
Well, the first and most obvious one is this theme of profound contradiction. The public narrative fighting poverty, equity, AI for all humanity, versus the private actions alleged in the article, focusing on wealth, control, maybe even manipulation.
That seems central. What else?
Stepping back a bit, there's a broader theme about power consolidation. The way AI is being developed and deployed right now, as described here, seems to be concentrating power and wealth in fewer hands.
Even while claiming the opposite, claiming democratization.
Exactly. Which leads you to ask, is this concentration of power an accident? Or is it somehow baked into the current structure of AI development and funding?
A big question.
And finally, the article seems to suggest this isn't just about one person, Sam Altman. It's maybe a reflection of a wider trend in modern tech. Companies claiming the ethical high ground, using idealistic language.
While pursuing pretty traditional capitalist goals underneath it all.
Precisely. It points to this broader moral complexity, this tension that seems inherent in the industry right now.
So, considering all that,
Yeah.
what are the big questions this leaves us with? For you, the listener.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture painted by this source, these revelations really force you to ask some fundamental things. Like, can any single person or any single company truly be trusted to develop and control world-altering AI without complete, genuine transparency?
That's a heavy one.
It is. And specifically about Altman, the article pushes you to consider. Is he the tech idealist he appears to be? Or is he, maybe as the article strongly suggests, more of a master manipulator hiding personal ambition behind a noble-sounding cause?
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Hopefully, this deep dive, based on this critical source, gives you a richer, maybe more nuanced way to think about the forces shaping our AI future. It should prompt you, perhaps, to look beyond the easy headlines, to question the narratives we're constantly being fed, and maybe consider this final thought, something to chew on. If the very foundation, the very architecture of this AI for good movement, if it's potentially built on structures involving hidden wealth, maybe exploited labor, questionable ethics, what does that truly tell us about the kind of future we're actually building? And, maybe more importantly, who really stands to benefit from it all in the end? Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to keep asking these crucial questions as you navigate the really fast-moving world of artificial intelligence.